Chevy Caprice, 30 years in Wisconsin weather. Here's the situation. Bottom of the B-pillar, rotted out. So I'm going to start by removing this strip along the bottom of the driver's door. No doubt I'll find more damage under there. Then the weather stripping comes out, the back door comes off, and we're going to see how bad it is. Now, when I dug into this last time on the other side, I had to cut from here down, and this part of the B-pillar goes approximately to here and about that far on the back door. And so that's going to come out. I'm going to have to refashion the bottom of it here. I expect to repair the rocker panel top and front side, possibly the bottom as well. Yeah, there's definitely some bottom missing. And we'll see what else. On the other side, I had to replace about a 20-inch strip with 16 gauge steel. So we'll see what it turns out to be. More later. Alright, took about 20-30 minutes. Door's off, had to de-wire the door. And best place to store it is in the back seat footwell. Alright, so right side pretty much like the left. The rot goes about 6 inches into the back door. We still have some of the bottom of the rocker panel, but it's getting pretty thin. I'll probably end up chopping that and replacing it. On the other side, the back, where's my finger? There it is. The back of the rocker panel back here, I ended up having to rebuild about 8 inches of the bottom, weld a patch in. Alright, so this area of the B-pillar that I call the shoe, because it kind of spreads out on both sides. Next stage will be pull the weather stripping back, cut the welds for that, and then since that's got rot here and all along the bottom, I'll probably end up cutting that about the same place as I did the other, right about across here. And so that'll take everything off from here down to here. That'll open up the rocker panel, and I can feel the rot goes to here, about 10 inches into the back door. So I'll probably end up cutting it just forward of this screw to make sure I've got good solid steel. I'll leave the top, weld the side in here, and then wrap up over the top, probably somewhere in here depending on how bad it is. And farther forward, this is where one of these two holes is where the front screw goes for the side trim that fits here. And as we can see, the cowl sheet is rotting out here, 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 and right under the door hinge. So ideally at some point I'm going to have to remove the fenders and fix that. And that's pretty much it. This back door, this was the first repair I did. That's obviously still got a little bit of patching to go yet. But a little cleanup will have that pretty much in hand. But this is going to be the big job. This is going to be some 16 gauge steel. Looks like, again, probably about a 16 to 20 inch segment. A lot of clean out, a little cut out. And now under here, under this layer, there is a third layer to this. There's the inside layer that makes the interior. There's this outside layer that we see, but there's a third plate under here. And I expect that that's rotted. That forms kind of a hexagonal shape, comes down kind of like this, and as far as I can tell, welds into the top of the rocker panel. That's what I did on the other side, and it seems to give it a lot of strength, so that's going to be the game plan. So next up, cut welds. Alright, I got the welds cut. As you can see, 4 up the back arch. I kind of chiseled through the 5th one. Cut across with the grinder, and then down the front side, 1, 2, 3. There was a 4th weld right here that I just chiseled through, and there was another one here that I thought was rusty enough it wasn't going to hold, but it did. Chiseled through that one, and then there was one more weld right here on the back edge. So now that that's done, this comes off. Here's that inner plate I was talking about. As you can see, that's pretty well gone. So I'm going to cut that off here. I'll sandblast out under there as far as I can, and then weld new sheet in here. This isn't as bad as I thought it would be, so I'll probably just replace this. Get a wider angle view here. From here back to here, weld in a whole new face here, and this bottom's pretty well gone. I'll probably end up replacing most of this from here to here. Again, that's going to be about a 20-inch stretch. So I'd hoped it would be better than the left side. It's not, but I'm not surprised. So now I can see what I'm dealing with, and given the steel, yeah, this should be about a 3-afternoon fabrication job. Nothing really hairy here, just a lot of cutting, trimming, fitting, and in the case of this joint here, bending, which with 16 gauge and no bending brake, that's going to be fun. But there it is. At least now I can see what I've got. So there you go, and we'll get it fixed up. Switching now to the part I cut off. This part I call the shoe. This is the bottom. We're looking at the inside. As you can see, it's pretty well moth-eaten inside and out. A lot of this is pretty thin. It's good here, right here, but pretty much from here, get around this cord here, from here on down, it's pretty much going to be a fabrication job. This all wire wheel, sandblast, acid treat. Same on this side. Patch up these welds I chiseled, and then rebuild this face here along with the rest of it, and rebuild this top. And in the meantime, clean out that rust proofing plug. And all in all, not looking terribly bad, worse than I had hoped, but not much more than what I expected. So you can always hope, but once you've seen one side, the other's pretty much going to be the same thing. So there you go. 16 gauge steel up next. It's about a week later, but shitty weather over the weekend. Okay, so the steel has been hit with navel jelly, allowed to dry 20 minutes, and then wiped with sodium bicarb water. And you can see there was quite a bit of rust there. It's all turned to iron sulfate now. I got out to the store, picked up some 16 gauge steel, 24 by 24, and got a new section for the rocker panel hammered out. I just clamped this device and started hammering it over at about the 1 1/8 inch mark, and making that a little large so I can shave it to fit if necessary. And then that will fit. Switch hands here. And that will fit right up in the rocker panel. And that notch I cut right in here. That's not quite squared off underneath, so I'll have to square that off, but that should set right into the notch right there, which I will eventually cut square, and then it'll sit pretty much right in. And it needs a little bit of straightening down toward the back end here, but got it right about 24 inches. So that'll get a little more straightening. I'll hit the inside with Rust-Oleum. Once that dries, I'll weld this up, making any cuts necessary to fit. Weld in, tack in, weld in, and then paint. And then I'll start on the shoe that covers the bottom of the B pillar here and actually welds into the rocker panel. And then I'll make this inside piece here that's missing. And I'm not sure if that welds right into where the rocker panel rolls over along here, or if that actually has a longer plate and comes down I haven't been able to find any GM body manuals that will tell me that, so I'm kind of making it up as I go along. So that's the news from here for now, and like I say, next step will be Rust-Oleum and welding. Alright, Saturday, April 4th. Got the Rust-Oleum in. It's dried. Cut off about a 24 by 3 inch strip of steel yesterday, 16 gauge. Put that in the vise, about 1 1/8 inch in. Hammered it over to get the bend on the bottom of the rocker panel here. And now today, about another hour of grinding, fitting, and it's pretty much to the point where I can at least tack it up and grind off the rest and kind of fit it in by hand from here. So next step, self-etching primer on the inside, coat of paint, grind back from the edges to weld, and that'll go in. Okay, there it is. Damage is patched up. It's fugly, but a lot of this is going to be covered by that shoe anyway, so I'm not horribly worried about it. It's going to be out of sight, out of mind. Work up to this point. Got the patch laid in along here. It's ugly, but it's going to be covered, so I'm not worried about it. Just made the cardboard template to fit in here. Left it a little long to hit the rocker panel. And the big work on Saturday was shaving the top of this and hammering it out to get all the welds to line up as much as I could. And that fits pretty close now, so that just needs a good sanding, maybe a little bump in and out here. Yeah, I think a bump in here. That's a bit of a hump there. So I'll hammer that flat and then try and sand some of the grind marks out of it, and maybe bring this up a little through here because this is kind of a ridge right here. And then fill some more pinholes. I see one right here, one here. Can't tell if that one goes all the way through. Looks like another one might be here and here. But anyway, fill those in, and then pick up a new can of Bondo to take care of any unevenness from there. This corner right here is kind of humped up, so I'll probably have to put a slit along right here, hammer that down, grind and re-weld with that just clamped in place. And then this corner on the left head, that's got to be hammered down flat. Again, I may just wait until I get tack weld in here and here before I do that, then hammer this flat, and then do any adjusting here that I might have to do. Then all that's left back here is patch up this hole, and at that door, at that point, with the primer and paint, the door can go back on. And then I'll have to turn my attention up to the forward part, where, as you can see, that part of the cowling is pretty rotten. They're right under the door hinge, right at the curve of the door, and then those two holes there in the side. And I'm probably going to have to trim that forward one back quite a ways, because that metal's looking pretty thin right there. Anyway, try and open that up, clean that out, and paint it up, and see where we go from there. And then at that point, I can get with the front door off, I can finally hammer that patch over, clean that up, hammer it over, and get that done.